So I remember that it's the Thanksgiving episode.
Yes.
And my notes are less than helpful.
Okay. We'll get there.
You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching Gossip Girl, Season 1, Episode 9, Blair Waldorf Must Buy.
Good.
This name in particular is a little...
I love it.
Just full disclosure, we watched this like 2 weeks ago.
We really did. And we were both like exhausted. And
Well, Christmas happened and I was like, I remember. And we'll see. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't.
So basically, the main gist of this episode is Dan finds out that Serena and her mom got uninvited from Blair's Thanksgiving. So he invites them over for Thanksgiving to the Humphrey house, not realizing that Rufus and Allison and Lily have like a deep lore between them.
So Allison, this is right.
Yeah.
I literally already forgot.
She's only in like 2 more episodes. So we're like halfway through the Allison nonsense.
It's actually, it's played really well, all things considered, but it's like, yeah, so she's currently home. It's so clear they're playing house. Like, it's pretend. Nothing's being worked on. They're just pretending things are fixed.
Yeah. She's just back, and they're having sex on the living room floor, well within earshot of both their children.
And so what was Blair and Serena's fight about?
That's the thing I don't remember. But Blair got annoyed at Serena because I think Serena told her the truth about something, but I don't remember exactly what it was.
Well, Blair is currently upset because her father's not coming to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And that was always the thing. And we had it's taking place in 2 timelines. It's taking place in the year 2007 and the year 2006.
Yeah.
And we get flashbacks to Blair's life before. And there's this element that I don't remember. You pointed out to me, and I don't know that I realized. And if I did, I don't remember. But it's that her mother seemingly is fully aware that her father is gay.
Yes.
And whether that was the case the whole time.
Yeah. Because
we're unsure.
At least for a year, because there's one of the flashbacks, Eleanor, they're like talking about one of the models, Roman, who is the one that Blair's dad ran away with. And Eleanor is like, just not the models. You have to stay.
She was like, not this time.
You have to stay out of my work, essentially. And not only did he not stay out of her work, he like doubled down.
And so the issue is that Eleanor is still embarrassed and humiliated. So she flat just doesn't invite him to Thanksgiving this year.
Actually, she even goes further than that to say that Blair doesn't want him there.
But she uses Blair as the reason, which is untrue. And you know, I an angle I frequently take on these shows is it's funny, and I think I took this angle even before I was older, because we're properly in our 30s now. But I am frequently intrigued by, and sometimes even siding with the parents. And I remember giving Eleanor a lot of credit, and I think a lot of that comes later, because she makes some decisions in these first few episodes.
Boy, because this is the first indication, not indication, but this is the moment where we find out Blair has an eating disorder. And we get a flashback to all of these moments we've already seen in the season, where it was like she ate like one blueberry just to get Dorota to like leave her alone, and she like I think
it was more nuanced than that, though, because it was like Dorota was trying to push food on her, and Eleanor was like, well, how about this instead? It's lighter. And I want to know specifically, because that's not an issue that I've faced. I mean, I don't have a wonderful relationship with food, but it's like the eating disorders is not so, and the social pressures and implications of it is not something that men face. Frankly, men actually face a ton.
Yeah.
A lot of men have eating disorders is the point that I'm trying to say. But how do you feel about the way the show treats it, and specifically the way her mother, because you bristled every time, and so I want to know, what do you think? Like, what should her mother be doing? Was she doing it wrong?
So the thing in this episode there's like two things in this episode specifically, and again, I'm trying to remember from 2 weeks back, and then 10 years before that. But the first thing for me is that she is basically, in the past, it seems that she has been the one who has like basically thrust the eating disorder on Blair, because she's like, Blair is like, I have to be perfect all the time, and this is one of the ways to do that. And then the thing is they all seem aware that Blair has been through a like medical process for this. Like, I don't think she was like hospitalized, but she's gone through therapy. She had presumably an eating disorder therapist and everything. And then I think the biggest crime is that Eleanor just thinks it's fixed. So she's not watching her language about food or anything. And there's something very specific about Blair's desire to be making this pie with her dad. And then so for her dad not to be there, and then for Eleanor to give that pie specifically to the doorman, it's like, that's really harmful and horrible. And then she forces Blair to pick a dessert and eat it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm surprised she didn't make her do it in front of her, but that is basically the final trigger where Blair like takes the pie into the kitchen and eats the entire thing.
Because I think the way that I was interpreting this specifically in these conversations in a general sense is, I don't think, well, I guess I'm asking, I don't think that you do anybody any favors by pretending it's not there.
Exactly, which is what Eleanor is doing. She's like, oh, well, you went to the doctor and it's fixed, so I don't have to watch my mouth anymore.
Okay.
That's what it feels like to me.
Okay.
Because generally, having an eating disorder is a lot like being an alcoholic. You always have that disorder. Mm-hmm. It's just about how you recover from it and how you move forward.
There was a specific incident where she suggested something quote unquote healthier.
Yeah.
And my memory was that you were kind of like, ugh. Yeah. And so I was like, well, is that not helping? Because I thought of it as like, well, she was being like acknowledging that there's a thing, mm-hmm. and then being like, well, you have this option.
So,
or is it more shining a light on it?
Yeah, it's more like that, because it's
affirming.
So it also appears that Blair has a little bit of both, because most people don't have just one. So she's a little anorexic and a little bulimic, because I think she threw up the pie after she ate it. And so the thing there is that because Eleanor should know that she has either or both starved herself in the past and then also binged and purged in the past, you're really supposed to just encourage eating whatever makes you feel good in your body. And for her to be like, well, you ate all of that, shouldn't you have a salad, is a really like, it's like bargaining for your food, and that's not what you're supposed to do.
And I think the second part of this conversation, which, as I recall, does not really carry on, and that is sort of the issue, is that this is interesting material, period. It's interesting and useful material for this show, but you also sort of, the writers have a duty to treat it seriously, realistically, authentically, and not as a
it's not like a very special episode,
or even just like as a titillation or a gossipy or right. I can't think of the word that I want to use.
Unfortunately, it kind of comes across as that because we don't, to my knowledge, really pick this up again.
And so in that regard, it's hard to really sort of assess it, because it's not, it's the kind of thing that I sort of feel like in shows have really, like we mentioned earlier in our coverage, this show is really at a cusp where it's like at a closing of one door and opening of another. And that very much to me feels like a relic of the old world, where it's like they would use the eating disorder as shorthand for juicy character moments. Right. And that's not super responsible. And so I think that that's part of where it's like we're trying in this one episode to cover this entire arc. And I think she might like relapse one more time. Does that?
I feel like it might come up like a very small amount again, but like I don't
remember. Isn't it literally like the next Thanksgiving?
I was like, I really don't remember another like big, even a whole episode where like that's her A plot. So.
And so it's the kind of thing where it's like I kind of want to be like A for effort, but I feel like in broad strokes they kind of biff it.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, I like what it says about Blair and her relationship to both of her parents, and like her relationship to herself and the world. But I would like that more if it continued a little
Because
more.
then on top of that, we do have, which, I mean, I don't think it's a show's responsibility, but it is a factor that there are going to be young people watching this, taking cues from it. And you, and as we've mentioned, one of our favorite writers, Jacob Clifton, pointed out that in shows that follow, for instance, like a Pretty Little Liars, they are constantly eating.
Yeah.
There is constantly, they are showing the girls with food.
Yeah.
Just to subliminally.
Well, and even Hannah has some disordered eating, but that's like part of it. And they also let that go on longer. But I think my favorite instance of that in the last handful of years is the show Killing Eve, because Eve is eating in every single scene. She's like Brad Pitt in the first Ocean's movie. It's like my favorite thing. It's very fun.
So that's sort of that
that's that section
conversation.
of it. Yeah.
I wrote a note that says Eleanor versus Dorota, and I don't quite remember, was Dorota being a bit more sympathetic?
Well, Dorota was very sympathetic to Blair, and Dorota, it seemed, also knew that Eleanor had told Roman, or I don't actually remember the dad's name, but she had told the dad not to come. So Dorota knew the truth. So
I can't remember if we mentioned it before, but Dorota is in play. She's not quite getting character moments yet, but she has been. Yeah. She has been sent and she's entered the game. Yeah.
I love Dorota. She is so fun. She is basically their maid, but she ends up being like Blair's like lady in waiting.
She's kind of, she's kind of, it's almost more like a nanny.
Yeah, there's a little bit of it. It's not as far as a governess.
Yeah.
But she is like, she really, really cares about Blair.
The flashbacks are to Serena being an absolute mess.
The year before. But what I really enjoyed was that everybody was trying to keep her drunkenness from Eleanor. Like, even the dad knew that she was just hammered. And they all were like, just don't worry as long as Eleanor doesn't find out.
Well, and there's a part of me where it's just like, I don't want to completely take Nate and Serena off the hook, but Blair was like throwing them together.
She literally said, Nate, take Serena upstairs and put her in the bath? Pardon. No.
I'm all for like
platonic friendship.
Well, and even just like open boundaries and stuff like that. But to that note, that is also one of my favorite things about this show and this episode is we get these flashbacks of the three of them just being friends, like being beautiful, young, rich in the prime of their lives. Because there's a scene where Eleanor or Blair walks in on Nate and Serena having like a tickle fight in the bath.
A water fight.
And you think she's going to be furious and she joins in.
Yeah.
And it's those moments where the show beams for us. Is it's like that ultimately, considering that the show is famous for being so catty and so, backstabby and twisty-turny, it is the places where they're friends and the places where reality rears its head that I think is so fascinating.
Absolutely.
So yeah, Blair and Serena do get in this fight. They go to the Humphreys. Basically it's just awkward, and Allison sort of she has every right.
Does she?
Well, you don't think so?
She's been banging the neighbor in Hudson.
She banged the neighbor in Hudson.
I'm
not on Allison's side. She has every... Okay.
Yeah, but Rufus and Lily haven't done anything.
No, I know. But to have that person show up again, she has every right to be...
Well, again, though, like you said, they're just playing house. None of it's real. They haven't gone to the bottom of any of their real issues. And also, she's the one who left.
Well, if I can... To finish what I was going to say, she has every right, but also I don't care.
Yeah, okay.
Right. I am far more invested, and I just forgot. I forgot what, like, an Ice Queen Kelly Rutherford played Lily as. But I mean, because there is a warmth there, but she's such a stoic bitch, like, and she's just so, like, clearly I should go. Yeah. And it's like...
It's incredible, because Dan doesn't tell Serena that his mom is there, so Serena can't warn Lily.
And they have no reason to think.
Yeah.
That anything, like, why would they need to?
Of course, so then all four of the kids find out what's going on, and that their parents have, like, this history, and that it was, like, very intense and crazy. I love it.
And there's a part where they all splinter the Waldorfs, the Van der Woodsens, the Humphreys. And I remember in the moment, and even watching it again, I remember being like, no, they need to all go back together and be like the group. But then there's just this moment, especially with the Van der Woodsens, with Lily and Blair, or Lily and Serena and Eric eating French fries in a diner. And it's
because
just
at first, just the kids splinter away. The kids are like, let's go to a diner because this is awkward. And they leave the parents to but then once Lily arrives.
But it's just actually so nice. And it's like, as much as, you know, you want your friends, and as much as we are very much found family people, I do think there is something to be said for every so often having your own, like,
little unit.
Yeah. Your genetic family, if that's what works for you. Like,
sure, yeah. We're trying really hard.
Well, I'm trying to not say your real family.
Oh, sure.
And I want to clarify that when I say that, also, I don't mean that if it's harmful to you. I mean, as long as but it's like, at a certain point, as much as I love you guys, and as much as we've spent so many times together, every so often I go home with just my mom and my dad and my brother. Yeah. And so, and especially, I think it does a lot for considering the criticism I just gave Lily about being so, like, aloof and stoic. I think it's important to see her and Serena and Eric, because he's around for a while.
Yeah.
I don't think he's always a guest star. I don't think he's ever like a regular.
I don't think so.
But
I think also my favorite thing about Lily is that she comes up to the table and she's like, hey guys, like, sorry about everything. And then the waiter passes by and she basically like grabs him by the neck of his uniform and says, give me the largest French fries you have and keep them coming.
Give me all the fries.
I mean, she doesn't really, but that's the energy she brings to the request. It's very funny.
I have a note about Annie, Nate's mother. Oh
yeah.
Nate's parents.
They have a really bad Thanksgiving. Their Thanksgiving is comically bad. It's just the three of them.
I don't remember.
And it is just like so sad. They're like, look, it's like,
it's American Gothic.
It was super American Gothic. And I think Nate just keeps saying something about it, like how everything is like messed up and it's obviously the captain's fault.
I think Annie says something because they're at the flashback at Blair's the previous year.
Oh, yeah.
And I think she says something really like loaded.
Well, no, he's trying to like take a phone call and she's like, oh, she does say something loaded because she's a Vanderbilt. And so she was like, it's not like you have to work for the money. Take Thanksgiving off. Like, because he's like, I'm not going to make some deal or something. And she's like,
worst.
She's like, you literally don't have to worry about it. I mean, she's right. And he should have known that when he married a fucking Vanderbilt. And then, because she even had that, I don't know if it was this episode or if it was previously, but she literally tells Nate, she's like, all he had to do was sit in an office and keep his mouth shut. Because her parents gave him his job or his company. Like, he didn't have to do anything. And instead he started doing embezzlement and fraud. So it's like,
he did all those embezzlements.
You're like just racking up the RICO charges. And it's sort of like, I don't really know, like what.
I also wrote down that Blair has Teen Wolf season 2 hair this whole episode.
Oh yeah, it's like
sitting.
Allison. It's like
the episode of Happy Endings where Penny and Elijah. Alex Coop. Penny and Alex have the wigs on top of the helmets.
Very funny. Very funny.
So
here's the thing. I obviously think Anne Archibald is terrible. I would not. I think she's a bad mom and a terrible parent, but I think the captain is worse than her because he's being actively terrible and she's terrible just sort of by default for her like lack of behavior.
She's also not charged all the way.
Yeah,
they like didn't get properly plugged in the night before.
Yeah. But I think the captain is so much worse because he's the one actively being like, Nate, just have sex with your girlfriend for the good of my business. And it's like, that's not how this works.
So, okay, well, we'll be back with the next episode and we'll do a better job.
Yep. Bye.
I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.